Hasbro was founded in 1923 by Henry Hessenfield and Helen Hessenfield. Hasbro is one of the largest toy manufacturers which produce variety type of products mainly on toys and games. Hasbro provides many categories of toys, such as boys' toys, girls' toys, playsets, and infant products. Hasbro Interactive. In 1994, Hasbro entered the CD-ROM game market by creating a new division named Hasbro Interactive. Hasbro Interactive was founded in 1995, leading by Tom Dusenberry. The company continued growth from 1996 to 1998 with $35 million to $196 million. However, in 1999, Hasbro Interactive suffered from loss of $74 million on $237 million in revenues. Mr. Dusenberry stated that the loss in the accounting sense was a good investment for Hasbro Interactive's future. In 2001, Hasbro Interactive was sold to Infogrames Entertainment, a publisher for interactive software games, for $100 million.
We have identified three main issues that the company currently has. They are conflict of interest, poor communication, and motivation. And I'm going to talk about the conflict of interest. Conflict of interest is considered as a major cause to the downfall of the company. Actually, Hasbro's financial projections had suffered a lot of problems. Under such circumstances, the company decided to exercise more control over Hasbro's Interactive. Ms. Dyer was one of the key people who would be responsible for supervising as well as improving Hasbro Interactive's financial situation from particularly the perspective of costs. Only working a few days with Hasbro Interactive in the fall of 1999, Ms. Dyer had foreseen that the division couldn't meet the expectations of this year. For that, she determined to apply a new financial system to help this out. Having said that, Hasbro Interactive managers still had difficulties collecting information and transferring contract information from paper to the financial system. What's more, Hasbro had recently installed a new financial reporting software package, which was not suitable for Hasbro's business. Ms. Dusenberry even regarded this as a disaster. Ms. Dyer's action was not welcomed by the employees of Hasbro Interactive. They all believed that these changes were contradicting their innovative and creative purposes. For Dusenberry, Dyer was even a divisive influence, and his team began to lose confidence in the corporate leadership. As opposed to Dusenberry, Ms. Dyer thought that it might take time for Hasbro Interactive to agree on his philosophy. A few months later, Dyer's wishful thinking made her felt that the whole division had accepted her more disciplined processes she put in place. However, in fact, she was wrong. There are many reasons contributing in part to the intergroup conflict of interest between Ms. Dyer and Ms. Dusenberry and his colleagues. One of them was a disagreement through which two or more parties involved perceived a threat to their different needs, interests, or concern. In this case, Ms. Dyer focused on financial budgeting, especially cost savings, which contradicted with Ms. Dusenberry's innovative and developmental intention that needs sufficient funding support. Ms. Dusenberry was fairly angry with Ms. Dyer. He took her as a hindrance for the future development of Hasbro Interactive. It is probably true to say that Ms. Dusenberry is an extroverted person who is overall a good leader, charismatic, inspiring, and with great ambition. However, the cost of being an extroverted person is that Ms. Dusenberry oftentimes tends to behave in an impulsive or risky way. As for Dyer, her previous merger and acquisition working experience in publishing industry made her a more prudent and rigorous person. Compared to Dusenberry, Ms. Dyer may be less extroverted. More accurately, I would say that she's situational extroverted. On the one hand, she didn't take the hostility personally, which is reserved and sensible. On the other hand, that is more powerful in controlling the future development of Hasbro Interactive. She was more determined and judging regarding the adoption of more disciplined processes. Perhaps surprisingly, both of them have the problems of poor communication and lack of openness. They both stuck to their own guns with regards to how to operate Hasbro Interactive. In regards to how to resolve conflict of interest between Dusenberry and Dyer, people may come up with many ideas. In this scenario, we will recommend some methods which we believe are actionable and effective. As to this problem, they need a third party's involvement to solve the contradiction. This person has to be nobody, but Ms. Hassenfeld. The reason being that both of Dyer and Dusenberry are in senior positions of Hasbro. It is probably true to say that they will have more chance of getting the persuasion across if this person is their boss. As both of them are strong-minded, unilateral compromise is not realistic. What Hassenfeld needs to do is to make each party compromise a little bit so that both parties can feel the fairness. For example, Dyer's control over Hasbro Interactive can be loosened to some extent. Simultaneously, Dusenberry needs to be somewhat conservative compared to previously. In such circumstances, the long-term relationship between the two parties can be built. However, it doesn't necessarily mean that the conflict is able to be eliminated. In the following years, they will once again come across enormous problems which they hold different opinions on. In relation to this, timely and effective communication will be so important. For example, they can hold a meeting at the beginning of each week. This enables them to share information regarding the progress of works, difficulties they currently face, as well as some plans for the future. And Nasha will talk about communication issues in the following part in more detail.
There are two main communication issues have occurred as causes of Hasbro Interactive downfall. First, lack of communication within Hasbro Interactive, which is a main issue in organizational excellence. Organizational excellence is a result of communication between colleagues who share values and visions in an organization. In the case, Hasbro Interactive showed the lack of communication within its company that led the company downfall. Mr. Dusenberry was the only person who had made all decisions such as product selections, organization structure, and partnership agreement in Hasbro Interactive. It was a one-side strategic decisions. As a result of the one-side strategic decisions, employees were lacking on understanding of the company value and mission. Second, lack of communication between Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive that can categorize into several factors. The lack of stricter oversight. For example, Hasbro Interactive didn't consult with Hasbro because they believed that they knew everything that had occurred within their company. In addition, the lack of interaction with other divisions and the separated reporting structure between Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive. As shown in the case, Hasbro Interactive had a project with Burger King while Hasbro had already had the same project with McDonald's. This situation presented the problem of poor communication between Hasbro and Hasbro Interactive. Intrinsic factors. Personality of each person determines the different communication behaviors and styles. In the case, Mr. Dusenberry was the key role who led the company having the lack of communication. He is the kind of person who had high confidence and liked to control others by making all decisions based on his judgment and idea. Moreover, he seemed to ignore other people's advices and built a one-way communication in Hasbro Interactive. Extrinsic factors. In the relation to social context, the organization structure and referent power have high influence on people's reaction. The disconnection between Hasbro headquarters and Hasbro Interactive occurred because these two companies have disjoint management. as well as there was less supervision from Hasbro to Hasbro Interactive. As can be seen that Hasbro Interactive was out of control from the Hasbro headquarters. Moreover, Hasbro Interactive didn't have enough abilities on branding, financing, and operating as same as Hasbro. Additional, Hasbro Interactive's brand managers provided less judgments in the company's activities because they tended to avoid conflicts within their company. Consequently, Mr. Dusenberry was the main person to decide all decisions in Hasbro Interactive. The recommendation: the 360-degree feedback is one of an effective strategies that can help for Hasbro Interactive to assist the company in a short-term period. The 360-degree feedback usually used to evaluate the company's performance, which can help the company identify its strength and weakness. The feedback also shows each person's performance, which help the company to understand its employees' strength and weakness, assisting them improve their skills and abilities, which is beneficial for the company in long-term period. For the long-term recommendations, there are 3 recommendations that we come up with. First, providing a communication training program. Concentrate on helping employees to improve their communication skill, encourage them to communicate and collaborate with other colleagues. Second, creating a positive communication climate to support and motivate employees speaking out in every organizational decision and activity. Third, rewarding and recognizing employees when they are achieving a goal or completing successfully in a task.
Another key issue contributed to the downfall of Hasbro Interactive is motivation. The lack of appropriate motivation is mainly reflects on 2 aspects. Firstly, Mr. Dusenberry set an aggressive target, $1 billion revenue with approximately 3 years, which sparked some senior executives' concern that Hasbro Interactive would bear more risk in order to pursue of such rapid growth. The high risk may decrease employees' perceived working security and cut down Hasbro employee satisfaction and self-motivation. Job satisfaction is positively related to employees' job performance. Therefore, the ambitious $1 billion revenue target would possibly have negative effects for Hasbro's overall performance. Secondly, the existing reward system leads them focus on obtaining their own interest rather than the interest of company. Hasbro employees become greedy and interested in their personal wealth through transferring their options, since the value of options would be increased significantly if the game.com become public. Recruitment becomes more difficult since the applicants are focused on making money instead of chasing the sense of accomplishment. It would not only enhance the instability of the current employees' performance, but also increase the threat and the possibility of recruit unskilled and inappropriate people. All of this would cause the downfall of the Hasbro Interactive. In this part, we will analyze the reason for why motivation issue was arising. In terms of the intrinsic factors, Mr. Dusenberry's personality plays an important role. He is ambitious and overconfident when he makes decisions such as setting the $1 billion revenue target of the company. Based on the expectancy theory, people would have a certain characteristic that they are willing to satisfy. Mr. Dusenberry's person rapidly goes to become the largest and most important division, and also he wants to end up with Allen Heisenfeld's job. Therefore, he was motivated to significantly increase the company's performance by setting a lofty goal. Moreover, Maslow's hierarchy of needs would also be taken into the consideration. Since Mr. Dusenberry has already established a decent economic foundation and reliable relationship, of course, he would tend to place where a feeling of accomplishment is available. For example, he would be willing to exercise his leadership skills. By contrast, The first-level employee needs money for their livelihood. Therefore, their interest in BirthdayGame.com would become public, and they are willing to tolerate work they do not enjoy for sake of a paycheck. On the other hand, we also need to take account the extrinsic factors into the consideration, which is mainly effect on the social context. According to the social cultural approach, people are motivated by the surrounding environment. Since the Wall Street analysts encourage Hasbro to increase the investment to Hasbro Interactive, it is effectively motivated Duesenberry to take action to beat the arch-rival Midas by adopting aggressive method. In addition, the predicted reward amount motivates them to set in the ambitious goal since they think the sales plan is feasible. Similarly, employees also think the rewards from the options when Game.com become public is predictable and attractiveness. Therefore, they are focused on transferring options instead of improving the working performance. In this part, we will modify the goal-setting system and reward system. Firstly, in terms of modified goal-setting system, we plan to align the goal setting with the company's long-term performance and take the risk and employee security into the consideration. While in Hasbro rapid development to meet the needs of market, it contains huge risks. Hasbro should adopt the stable development space to decrease the inherent risk and increase the employee's security, then improve the overall performance. Besides, since the top managers such as Mr. Duesenberry would have a different expectation with the first-level employees. Therefore, Hasbro would encourage the first-level employee participate in goal setting and increase the autonomy of the employees. Providing the effective feedback provided the opportunity for Hasbro to clarify expectations and adjusting goal difficulty. For example, when employees' performance decreases, Hasbro has chance to change its goal difficulty to motivate the employee. For the reward system, the effective way to encourage the employee considering the company's profit is to align the rewards with the employee's working performance. For the current reward system, Hasbro offering the option to existing employee and motivate them focus on expanding their own wealth through those options rather than improve their competence to expand Hasbro's profit. Therefore, if Hasbro changing the rewards related with employees' performance would be motivate the employee continually enhance their personal competence. Finally, assess that the Hasbro achieve the realistic goal and create a sustainable development environment. And this is our reference list. This is the end of the presentation. Thank you for your listening.